I hope you guys are having a blessed day. Today I want to talk about the difference between a good simplicity and a bad simplicity as it is in the Bible, and especially in Proverbs, what I'm going to be talking about today. So, the Proverbs is a book that's just great for many reasons. I think it's especially useful for young men like as myself who are in their, late teens, early 20s, and really discovering their path in life and what it looks like and how to lead a wife, how to lead a family, how to take up a new position in your own family as well, how to lead good friends, and really what it means to become a leader, and more than that, how to become a godly man, a serving man, a wise man. So I'm kind of going to dig into what I mean by a good simple and a bad simple. So I'll kind of give you the example of the bad simple. This is very common in Proverbs. It talks about the simple man, his foolish ways. The best example I can give you right now, Proverbs chapter 7 talks about a man who is seduced by an evil woman, right? And it describes this path that happens, and it describes her, how she enticed him, and how he fell. Immediately there was no resistance, and I want to go into that. The main point I want to hit on is where the observer, Solomon, is talking about, and he says in verse 7, "And saw among the simple I perceived among the youths a young man devoid of understanding." So this is setting up for who he is, and we see that he is among the simple. I perceived among the youths a young man devoid of understanding. It's a little complex language used there and structure, but a young man devoid of understanding. So we see that he doesn't have understanding and he's simple, right? I look at this as in he has no depth to him. He has no foundation. He's sort of just free floating, right? There's no depth to it. It's just very simple. What you see is what you get. What he does is how he thinks. It reflects it very honestly. And I'm going to get back to that in a moment, but the good example of simple is, I think, best understood when looking at what Jesus talks about, and as well as David and Solomon talking about staying on the narrow path, right? Being on the path that leads to life. It's narrow, but it's straight. That's what they say, narrow, straight path. And I see that as sort of the simple path. And I look about it more from the perspective of being approachable, and being approachable and simple. Not simple as in it lacks depth to it. It doesn't lack understanding. It doesn't lack complexity, but it's approachable, where what you see is what you get when you first look at it. It's like what it says it is what it is. It's true. There's more to it. There's more depth to it, but you have to be on that path to understand that. So that's where I think the idea of like a good simplicity and the Proverbs talks about that as well. I think it talks about, it's just the repeating of, it's like the father, he's giving instruction to his son. This is like Solomon giving instruction to his son, which is what the Proverbs is. And as we can see, he talks about, like, he always speaks of like a path metaphor, right? Where you're on the path, set your eyes before you, don't stumble. You may fall, but God will lift you up again. And it's like, seek wisdom, seek understanding, seek wise counsel, seek the things that have depth to it, even though they're simple, because they're very approachable. Like these things are good. They're simple. They're time tested. They're more of like the traditional values, not in our modern sense of the word, but in a sense of sort of the basics of it. I think what it was meant to be and these values that they hold, right? And I think this is very helpful. Now, I want to draw a comparison between the two, the good simple and the bad simple, and compare the two stories. As we see with the good simple, it is a man who dwells in the multitude of counselors, as Proverbs says. A man who is, has good, honest friends about him, who does what he's supposed to do. He's diligent. He doesn't have a slack hand. He doesn't have a lying tongue. He's an honest, a godly man. This is what we seek, right? This is the good sort of simple, where he does what he needs to do. He gets things done. He's able to lead right because of how he thinks reflects what he does. Again, that you'll see a common theme within my channel with that. Now, I want to flip to the opposite side of the spectrum with the bad simple, the poor simple. which is what I talked about earlier, but now I want to get back to in Proverbs 7. We see that he's simple. He's a young man devoid of understanding, right? And we see Solomon giving a description of the woman as well, and how she does to entice him. And I think that's important to see, but honestly, I think there's more, almost another side to look at this from that I want to really get to, that I don't know if you guys really think about. I really didn't understand it, but I think it's looking at it from a different perspective. And I want to describe that perspective. So the author describes her, she's loud, rebellious, her feet wouldn't stay at home. She was outside all the time, really trying to just entice and appease with her looks and with her actions. Very simple, very superficial. It's not described of her, like of how she thinks, how she acts, like all the time. It's just, she's, I know the best word would be like promiscuous. But I think there's another point we need to look at. And it's, when I first read this, like really first started looking into it, it really struck me. And it's in verse 21. So he just gets done describing what the woman is telling him, like what she's enticing him with and all that. And immediately says, with her enticing speech, she caused him to yield. With her flattering lips, she seduced him. Immediately he went after her as an ox goes to the slaughter. And that line, with her enticing speech, she caused him to yield. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the difference between good wisdom, or good simple, and bad simple, right? With the bad simple, he just yields. There's no defenses put up within his mind. Like she entices him, and even if maybe at first he was like, oh, this is kind of weird, like I don't want this, sort of, if we look at these actual characters, like bring them to life more. But excuse me, sorry about that. I thought that there was someone at my door. Anyway, going back into the story, as we see, he immediately yields. He doesn't put up any defense. There's no thinking, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I going to base this off my values and what I believe? Obviously, we see he doesn't have values. That's why he immediately yields and just lays down as an ox goes to the slaughter, right? He just gives in. This is what we do with temptation all the time, myself included. We just give into it. We just lay down and accept that that's our reality just because we thought a thought, or we dwelt on a thought. And I think that's where understanding this concept of good wisdom, of simple wisdom, is what we want. And that's like a lot of Proverbs, like Proverbs 3, 4, 5, like a lot of those chapters are just, I read them all the time because they're so simple. They're so, especially chapters 3 and 4, they describe how we're supposed to act, like what we're supposed to do, what we seek. And we see all the time, it's these three words: understanding, wisdom, and knowledge. And I want to go back to something I read today. Give me a second to find it because I wasn't prepared for this. But he talks about sort of the order that you go through within it. It's in Proverbs 24. He says, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So if you kind of follow the order of this, like from a logical perspective, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. If we take that verse 3 and we look at it, wisdom and understanding establishes and builds the house, as we see, right? But then by knowledge the rooms are filled with precious and pleasant riches. So what he's describing is your foundation for this is wisdom and understanding, right? This is the only thing that we can get from the Lord. We can start to understand it. It's sort of our values, our characters, right? And then on top of that, by knowledge the rooms are filled. So he's saying that first you get the wisdom and you get the understanding, and you get, okay, this is what my values are. This is who I'm meant to be. This is the path that I'm on. And then you look at the knowledge and be like, that's going to build me up even further. That's going to build the foundation off of what I have. And all of it's still there, but your knowledge, that's why we should seek to learn new things, and not just meaning, just going to school or, taking, online classes or whatever, but it's more than that. It's learning every day, learning about the things we need to do, getting interested in certain topics that can be useful to help other people, to help ourselves and our craft with whatever it is. And that was kind of sort of a tangent, but if you see, those three words mean so much in Proverbs, and I'm going to be talking about that so often within reading this. But again, back to what I'm talking about, like the good simple and the bad simple, right? It's it's very two extremely different ends, but they share sort of a common thread, the fact that it's simple and it's not something that's complex. Because even the good simple, just it's simple and it's approachable and it's understanding, but it's not really, it's not complex. There's more depth to it. But if you're on the journey, then everything will be set out before you, where it's like same way with the path that we're on as Christians. We're on the narrow path, but it doesn't, it opens up into life. I think there's a verse about that. I can't think about it, but it opens up into life, and having abundant and joyful life. So again, seek good, simple wisdom. And that's what it's talking about, is the principles of, finding wisdom, finding knowledge and understanding and all these things, and building them as a part of you. So again, that's all I want to talk about today. Sorry, my eyes are twitching, but just ponder the proverb. Ponder the Proverbs. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. But I'm gonna end this video because I'm kind of just rambling at this point. But hold fast to these ideas. And I'm gonna read, Proverbs 24 one more time. And I want you to meditate on this in the order of it and look at it for yourself. Through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wisdom and understanding, then knowledge. Hold fast to those things and keep them in mind. Ponder them in your heart and ask the Lord to help you understand what they mean and how they can lead your life. Thank you for listening to me yap about this for a little bit and my thoughts. Share any comments if you have any similar ideas as what I'm talking about, if you've experienced similar things, and the importance of wisdom in your own life, and to share it with others, because that's why I made this channel, is to really give you guys advice, godly advice on how to become that godly man, how to pursue godliness and be a good, simple man, have wisdom, and to seek knowledge and understanding. So thank you for watching. That's the end.